Okay, I'm here with k1llsen, and we're at Dreamhack Winter, but when everyone hears this, it'll be a bit later. And I want to kind of do an interview where we kind of go over some of the high points of your career or some of the famous moments. And so, actually, to start off with, I just wanted you to kind of give me your idea of when you first thought that you got good as like a 1v1 player, like a duel player, because I remember first hearing about you in Quake 4, but I know you were around towards the end of Quake 3, I think. So when did you actually become like a good duel player, or when were you going to LANs first, the big ones?
It was, my first LAN experience was in Germany with just Germans. I played against Dioxine from how was it called? The short was Pro for them. Prophecy. Back in a very good TDM team. They also had very good duelers, and I was placed second on that event. And then 2004 there was ESWC coming with nation mode dueling, and that was the first time I recognized that I'm doing not so bad at all, and that was when my career was starting. We placed fifth with Germany, with Diablo back in the days, and it was pretty fun for me.
Okay, in terms of like a big result, the first one I remember in my mind was the Code 5 in Quake 4, 2006, and this was, you came second technically, but there was kind of like a weird scenario to it where it should have been cooler in the final, but then he got disqualified or something, so you got to play against toxjq, who was like the guy who won everything at the time. I mean, what do you remember of that tournament? Was there any key moments and the weird scenario with you getting to play in the final when you actually lost?
I mean, I was wondering myself because I got the third place, and so the admins just decided that I can play the final because k1llsen showed up very late, and what I really will keep in my mind forever, I think, until that day, toxjq was nearly untouched in every game. So and I gave him a really close fight in the end, and I think it was of course worth watching.
What made toxjq so good in Quake 4? Because it seemed like that was just a game that just all his strengths just matched up perfectly with what you needed. Like, what was he so good at?
I think he just chose the right moments to speed up, because in Quake 4 it was very easy to move really fast around, and even his aim is just like a robot. So and he mixed those things up perfectly.
Isn't that what people usually describe about you, that your aim is very good and you have this really good rail aim, etc.? Were you not so good an aimer back then? What do you think it was? Did Quake 4 not suit you? What do you think?
I think I was not experienced enough to really place first. So
I mean, part of the reason I always remember the details of k1llsen getting knocked out is because years later he did this interview with Slasher, and it's like a classic k1llsen moment where he just comes up out of nowhere and just does this, well, I'll do a bad Russian accent, he goes like, "This guy took my $5,000, something like that. You remember this?
Yeah, right, of course I remember that. I mean, of course I can understand him, was very rude from his point of view, so I'd be angry too, so.
What was your relationship actually like with k1llsen through the years? Because actually you guys faced each other tons of times, especially in Quake Live. It seemed like you always got paired up in the brackets. Like, did you have a contentious relationship with him? Because, you know, some people he didn't necessarily like them, or he didn't think they were good players. How did you think it was?
I mean, it's kind of like you have to earn k1llsen's respect, and that moment came for me 2010 at Gamescom when I won against Rapha in the final, and that was a moment who k1llsen really respected me and talked with me, and but before there was like nothing, so he was just like looking down to you.
Okay. In the early days of Quake Live, I think it was a while before you had like your first big result. I mean, Gamescom was the first big result for you, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I remember at this point, I think if my timeline's right, like rapha was still the best player at the time, like he hadn't lost any tournaments. Cypher and k1llsen were maybe just behind him, and there was Avak as well, so it was like the four was just starting to get set up there. And then at Gamescom, let me think, Rapha had just beaten k1llsen. I think he beat him like 3-0 or something in the semi-final. So everyone's like, oh, Rapha's going to win another event. He's going to win like 5 in a row or something. Meanwhile, you'd beaten Avec, and then you actually like, didn't you like 3-0 Rapha or something? What happened in this final?
No, it was 3-2.
Okay.
But yeah, when I won the maps, it was pretty clear. So it wasn't close. The maps which I won, and yeah, I kind of destroyed Rapha somehow. So yeah, it was just totally my day, and I hit it like everything, and I got almost a better positioning, and yeah, everything worked in my way.
Even people who, I mean, there were so many players who had better aim than Rapha or better movement or whatever, and yet he would still beat a lot of them so often. What do you think from, just because you've done it before, what's the secret to beating Rapha? What do you have to do to be able to get ahead of him? Because he always seems like he has the right positioning and the smarts and stuff. What do you do?
I mean, the only thing I really can see what Rapha is missing is some aiming. So that should be the point to beat him. But you also have to really take care about the positioning, and yeah, that's very important. When I, for example, watch Cypher playing, even he's under a very small stack, and against 200 he positioning himself so well that he can even win the fight, and that's how Cypher is, for example, pulling miracles. So yeah, that's what you have to do against Rapha too.
When you actually play against Rapha, give me like the perspective of what it's like to be actually playing against him, because I know if you play someone like Cypher, for example, or Avec, if there's like a fight for a big item, they will think that they have the better aim or that they can win the fight, and they'll kind of just go head into it, whereas it seems like Rapha always has that like plan B, like if I don't get this item, I'll go backwards over this health and I'll escape up here. Like, is it difficult to play against him? Is it like hard to outthink him? What's it like to play against him in like a big match?
Yeah, I mean, those are the things what makes Rapha so special, I think, in the end. So if he doesn't get like the mega or red armor, he always has his plan B, like you said, and yes, walking the other side around and getting something that normally you need, and yeah, it's kind of, you always have to watch about your stack, like when you have 160 health points, why you should go aggressive and risk your life for the mega health. So, in that point it would be more important to get some armors, and so the enemy doesn't get the armors. I think that makes the things pretty hard.
Okay, so another famous player that you played quite a lot actually was Avec as well. You beat him a couple of close series. Yes. Avec is someone also known to have really good aim, really strong aggressive player, and yet he's a player who can beat k1llsen, he can beat Cypher, he's beaten these players all before. What do you think you had when you played Avec that would give you the edge, or how do you think the games would always go?
I think it was, yeah, you can say just my aim in the end, but I also played the tactical game pretty good, so yeah, he just underestimated some situations, I think, and that's why I won very many matches. But yeah, also he does to me, so his aim got better and better, so the last days, and yeah, we will see what's happening this tournament.
Whenever I hear people like on ES Reality, for example, they describe your style, they usually say you do like a hit and run style with your railing, and you try and do this and that. Is this how you see your own game? Is it a style that you always just naturally played, or did you develop it? Did you see it from something else and take things? How did it come about?
I think many people saying about that I'm pretty much all backward railing. So, but I don't. I wouldn't say the same, because I know the rail is my weapon with which I can change a whole game. So. And my game is of course based a bit on the rail, so that means that I have to take care about my positioning even more when I'm railing. You have to be very calm to hit the shot. Of course I'm doing flick rails, it looks easy but it isn't, so even for that you have to be very calm. And when I don't feel that my rocket launcher or lightning gun aim isn't the way it used to be, then I focus a bit more on the rail, so that might be brings the thinking about very backwarding raiding game. So, but I just play. I don't really base my game on the tactical side. I try to play some kind of aggressive, and when I get the chance, I will use it for sure. But sometimes it's very hard when someone positioning himself very good. So that makes things sometimes look a bit weird in the end, I think.
When you're actually in a game, like not before or after, are you someone who actually is constantly like thinking up a certain plan of like I'm going to do this next, or do you kind of just go with the flow? Like I mean, when you watch someone like Cypher, for example, it looks more like he's just kind of in the rhythm of what he's doing. Where someone like k1llsen or rapha, they're kind of like planning out every next move. What is it like for you, do you think?
I'm just doing the opposite side of the enemy, I would say. So I'm not thinking before the game. I'm just going into the game. So the first what matters is the first spawns, and then the second what matters is how the armor's gonna split up and the mega health and how the first damage comes in. That are all things I take care of when I'm in the game, just in the game. So I don't think before about some situations.
The thing that you're most famous for, we already mentioned, like your railing. People always mention your aim, and they say you have like aimbot aim and stuff when you're on your games. It seems like there's a few people in Quake Live who are most famous for their aims. There's you, the Sparty, maybe even Strenx because of LG, etc. Do you feel like when you're on your top form, like do you have the best aim in Quake Live? Are the guys who it's troublesome for you to even play against their aim? What was it like?
I mean, overall, when I'm in my best form, I think kinda. But yeah, I mean, Strenx LG is just like legendary, you have to say. But I'm using a higher sensitivity, so that makes the LG aim a bit more difficult in the end. And but yeah, overall, so everybody got his strength and is not so good with some other weapons. For example, Avec is really good with rocket launcher and plasma gun. So and Cypher is just superb with a rocket launcher, and that's how I think about that.
Of all the big four guys, like Avec, k1llsen, Cypher, rapha, these four guys who were always like the ones making it to the semi-finals, etc. It seems like the one that you played the least was actually Cypher in playoffs. You didn't really. Did you ever get drawn against him in a playoff?
Yes, and we had some fights in group stages too. So, but normally it's almost a final when we play against each other. Like 1 month ago at the Android event, I faced him, and I faced him at some IEM in the group stage where I beated him. So, yeah.
But I mean, the others you played a lot of series against, even in the big tournaments. The reason I wonder is because people always list the three that I mentioned there, Sparty, you, Strenx, as the big aimers in Quake Live, but it seems like Cypher can sometimes be like the best aimer in the world if his game is on. Like, do you find this when you play against him? Is this like one of the key strengths?
Cypher's aim isn't bad at all, I have to say. He for sure got one of the best aims out there, even with rail and lightning gun. I mean, his the way he plays when he's really calm, really in his shape, then he's so calm that he can hit like 80% in some moments, so without any problem, and that makes him really dangerous. And so you really can't plan things when you're playing against Cypher.
The thing he's obviously most famous for is his rockets, and you can especially see it when in terms of like rockets fired at the ground in front, he can seemingly like hit the ones that are just like a few meters ahead of where everyone else would usually shoot in terms of when the enemy's coming in. How is it different when you're playing against him and he has the rocket launcher compared to just any of the other top players? Is it?
It is. You always have to think about that. Yeah, his rocket launcher. When you're doing a rocket launcher duel with him, and he is like on a stack 100-100, you need at least 200-200 because he's hitting like at least 2 direct rockets. So and you will just get away with a few HP. So and when you play, for example, Sparty or Strenx, their rocket launcher isn't that good, and So it's enough to be on the same stack or a bit lower or something. So, but also what matters in the end is the first big rocket. So.
Since you were around before Quake Live, you were in the Quake 3 era as well. You got to see Cypher when he was in like his Quake 3 form, and then you got to see Rapha when he started dominating Quake Live early. Like obviously the two games, they look the same and they have all the same weapons, but they're slightly different. Is it fair to say that like the Quake 3, the way the game was, maybe suited Cypher more, and Quake Live suits Rapha's style more? What do you think it is? Because it seems like the more defensive style worked a bit more in Quake Live, whereas in Cypher could kind of do whatever he wanted in Quake 3, it seemed, at the end.
I mean, the damage was different overall a bit. So, like Rail was doing 100 damage. I'm sure if I would have been earlier in Quake 3, I would have, of course, placed in the first three places a lot.
Suited you more, you think?
Yeah, and but I don't think. I feel like Quake Live is a bit faster than Quake 3. In the end, movement-wise, and I think that makes also doing a favor for Cypher. So Rapha's strength is just that he thinks about a lot of situations at the same time, and not everybody can do that what he does. And I think that's why Rapha is this successful in Quake Live. I'm sure he will be in any game in the future if he competes.
So a guy we haven't really touched on yet is k1llsen, and like I said, you played him so many times, but he's also the guy who, except for this last Dreamhack, the way you beat him, he always seemed to just get the better of you. Like you'd always be a close series or it'd be an overtime game, and somehow he'd always just get. What do you think it was that could put him over the top when he played you, in terms of your styles?
Last Dreamhack I won actually against him.
No, I mean before that though.
Before that.
Slightly edging you.
Yeah, it was kind of the same style Rapha plays in the end, but k1llsen is like, I mean, his legendary quote is like when to be aggressive and when not to be aggressive. Yeah, and he's choosing those situations perfectly, and so I didn't figure that out so well, and that's why I think I was losing to him so often.
And like as we just mentioned, I think it was like a year ago maybe was the one where you beat him at Dreamhack. So in this series, you finally like beat him in, I think was it the quarterfinals? Okay, so you beat him this time. Do you think that was when k1llsen was kind of like losing interest in Quake Live and he was going off the boil, or was this like a big series for you? What did you think?
No, k1llsen was in a very good shape, like always. I was just took care of his movements and stuff, what he's just doing in game, and even though you have to say I was kind of lucky. If the game would have been like still 15 minutes, then I might have been lost. Just did the right things in the right moments, and I really felt happy after I beat him, because it was the first time for me to beat k1llsen, and I felt like now I can win everything, because when you beat k1llsen, everybody knows he's mentally the strongest player, I would say, even stronger than Rapha, and I felt super good.
I think that k1llsen's famous for in terms of skills is his dodging, obviously. How is it different to play against someone who dodges like k1llsen as opposed to, say, someone like Strenx or someone?
It's kind of difficult, but since my rail is like more flick rail, so it doesn't matter if someone dodges very nice. I mean, you can't dodge, if you flick, you can't dodge it. It's impossible. So I think that was somehow working for me then in the end.
Did you always use this style of rail? Did it come from maybe your sensitivity or your mouse setup or what? Because, there's some people who can hit a good percentage, but they like to do that really slow style, or they set up the angle and, it's like a tripwire type shot. But you, like you say, you do a lot of flick rails, just instantly shooting, like hand-eye coordination. Was it always this style for you?
Well, no. When I started, it wasn't. When I first met Diablo, then I was thinking about some mouse acceleration, and it really felt good in a way, and so my rail got used to it. and even though my rocket launcher. But my rocket launcher isn't that good because the rocket doesn't come instantly. So yeah, that was when I figured out how to use the rail the best way. I mean, yeah, the most effectively way.
For a long time in Quake Live, because of the people who won the tournaments, it was always considered like the big four of the people we all know. But then just after the big four, it seemed like there was always these three. There was always you, Strenx and Sparty were like the guys who were just behind them each time. Is it fair to categorize it like that, do you think? Do you think that's the way the pack went? It was you three after the big four?
Yes, I think it was this way.
Is it just coincidence that the people who were those three afterwards are mainly known just for AIM, and the others are known as like lots of different things? Do you think like there were? I'm trying to think how to phrase this. What do you think separated these two groups? Like, why did these players not become champions in the same sense? You know.
I think the constancy was in the end what really put those two groups apart from each other. So because I wasn't even bringing my A game all the time. So even Sparty, when Sparty did, he was standing in the final. When I did, I was standing in the final, and even Strenx was standing in the final. So yeah, I think that was the point why it worked out this way in the end.
As someone who's a player who was playing around at the same time, I wanted to get your take on two different matchups in Quake Live, because of those big four players, the two matchups that always were very one-sided was if Rapha played Avec, he like always beat him pretty much, and if k1llsen played Cypher, he always lost to Cypher pretty much. This was like almost 100% of the time, I think, in the big tournaments. Why do you think those two matchups were so just completely one-sided when some of the others were really close, you know?
I think it's because each other knows each other very well, and they know about the strengths and use it just in the right time. So I think that was just what happened in those games in the end.
Do you think it was ever if people are going to criticize the Quake Live era, one of the things they might say, especially people from the old school, is like there weren't as many top players, and it was always the same maybe 10 or 15 players. It was always these same people at every single tournament. So even though it was really good for consistency, it wasn't like if you go back to say 2003, there might have been, I don't know how many, twice as many players who were trying to compete for these dual titles. How do you weigh up like how competitive it made the scene? Because on one hand, you only have a few players who are winning all the tournaments, but on the other hand, you do play the same players over and over and over. So maybe you develop that. How do you think it balances out?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that because I mean, of course we have just a few players out there who are very good, and so now in the end of Quake Live you can almost say things are getting more tight at the top, and even though we have like Beckstein who was coming to Adroids and showed some very good results there. We have Evil, who's out there since forever, you can say. He even played Quake 3, and now he got this edge to the next level for him. And if we would have this a bit earlier, I think we might have some newcomers out there. But now Quake Live is we just have a pretty small community now, and things getting very hard to organize, to get sponsors and stuff. So we'll see what comes next. If ID gonna make a new Quake or something, I would really wish for that, and I will pray. And
When IEM was still around, and even ESWC did a tournament in 2010, there was still quite a big circuit. Like you could attend maybe 7 events, 8 events in a year. Now there's basically just the 2 Dreamhacks and QuakeCon. Like there's not really any other big LAN. You know, there might be some medium ones every now and then. How much longer do you see Quake Live lasting like this? Do you think it'll just keep as those 3 events for the next couple of years? Do you think it's going to die out in a year or two? Like, what's your sense at the moment?
My sense is that we might have 1 more year, and then Quake might, or overall the the dueling scene might die in some way, because right now it's just a MOBA where everyone is interested in, and so I think it's just a change of time. Someday we will have for sure some dueling games back, and maybe 2 games competitive wise, who knows.
It seems like the big problem for Quake everyone's been talking about for years is the fact that in terms of what the casual player wants to play, he just wants to play like team games, for example, because then he doesn't have to be the best player. He can have good teammates, or he can just have fun even if he's losing. Whereas people always say if you come into Quake and you don't have much experience, it kind of sucks just getting owned all the time, and you feel like a million miles away from the guy who might only be a bit better, but he owns you by so many frags, you know. Do you think it's possible to make some kind of FPS that also appeals to casual players, or do you think for us, like for me and you, to enjoy Quake, it has to kind of be a bit hardcore maybe? Like how do you think it balances?
It's very hard to make an FPS like that, because the skill gap is very high. It's different than like in MOBA games. At least in MOBA games you have the first 10 minutes where you just have to build up, and so it makes things difficult for FPS games in the end, because you can't like some moments in the top games it's just because someone getting this super idea and doing absolutely the right thing, but in some way, because you have always many options to go, it's a bit of luck involved all the time, and when you're not good enough you can't get this luck. It's impossible. So I think that makes it really difficult.
Are you someone who, I mean, is Quake or a hardcore FPS game, is that like the only game you play, or do you play for fun any MOBA games or StarCraft or something, or would you ever go into a different type of game, a different genre to play as like a pro?
I gonna go to League of Legends soon, so I already played a lot, and of course I will have an eye all the time on Quake Live, and when there's some events I gonna practice for it and gonna compete, but I might gonna change the main game.
Are you actually going to try and play competitively and see how you can get up in League of Legends?
Maybe I have to see how everything works out, and then I might be someday in some team or something. We'll see.
What type of role do you play when you play League of Legends?
I really like to play AP or AD, so that's what really suits me well.
Obviously, a lot of Quake fans, they look down on League of Legends or any game like that, and they say, "Oh, it's so easy," or "There's not enough skill," or whatever. But all the people I know who are League of Legends pro say kind of the skill is in the team play aspect, maybe like not just the control and the characters, like how well you interact with your teammates and the strategies you come up with. Is it just fun that you like to play League of Legends, or is it like how much can you actually show your skill in the game, do you think?
I think it's I don't really can show my skill in the game that I have now. I mean, I really have to earn new skills, and I have to see if I can put some Quake experience into League of Legends. For sure, my how I practice Quake Live is gonna help me out in League of Legends, and that's what I can tell about.
Is there any players over the years, maybe like a couple of years just before you, who were like famous Quake duelers who you would have liked to have had the chance to play against, like you the legendary names, or you think like it would have been a good game? Can you think of someone off the top of your head?
I would have loved to play like Fatality, B100, Death, and Lexer. I mean, they are just still legendary. Also, I would have loved to play some old Germans like ZYZ, Slinger, Neok. Stellam. I played Stellam actually in Quake Live. So I would really love to play them.
When you were just coming up, were you actually a fan of any of these guys? Was there anyone whose style you really found exciting to watch?
Actually, I don't really know those guys. When I got started, there were a few movies out. like Quake 3 rules and videos like that. So I really love to watch those movies, but yeah, back when I started, they just ended their career. So.
Will there ever be a k1llsen movie, like a good one? I mean, we've had good movies for like, let me think, Strenx had one, k1llsen had one, Cypher had like an okay one. Will we ever have a good k1llsen movie? It seems like your style would fit one.
For sure, someday, why not?
Okay, well that's pretty much all my questions. So is there anything you want to, like a message you want to give to people, or someone you want to say hello to?
Of course, I want to thank all the people who are cheering for me and who are supporting Quake. And I also want to thank my sponsors, Platform 2060 and Gaming Inside. And my family, of course, my girlfriend and my son.
Danke.
Thanks.